Music 1327 Jazz to Rock by Vania Garcia. 1950s rock and roll. Characteristics. Originated and evolved in the U.S. from a combination of African American genres such as blues, jump blues, jazz, and gospel music. Either the piano or saxophone was often the lead instruments, but this would generally replace or supplemented by guitar. It influenced lifestyles, fashion, attitudes, and language. Its heavy beat, loudness, and lyrics created a teenage defiance of adults' values. Where it was developed. Developed in the 1940s and 1950s, it arose in the southern United States throughout the meetings of various influences that embodied a merging of the African American musical tradition with European instrumentation. It originated in a region which would produce most of the major early rock and roll acts. 1950, first jukebox to play 45 RPM is introduced. 1952, Sun Records opened for business. The highly influential U.S. independent label is famous for launching the career of Elvis Presley. 1955, film Blackboard Jungle is released and is considered to play a pivotal role in introducing rock and roll. February 1959, a plane crash kills Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and J.P. Richardson near Clear Lake, Iowa, the day the music died. Rock and roll artists. Elvis Presley, he was rock and roll's first real star, not to mention one of the most important cultural forces in history, a hip-shaking symbol of liberation for the Stand America of the 1950s. His dynamic delivery and widely famous dance move appeared to the younger generation, in which skyrocketed his career. Broke chart records with 9 singles in the Hot 100 chart at once. Chuck Berry, he is the poet laureate of rock and roll. He took a pledging idiom born out of rhythm and blues and country and western and gave it form and identity. Berry crafted many rock and roll's greatest riffs and married them to lyrics that shaped the rock and roll's vernacular for generations. Bill Haley, first artist to create a rock and roll record to reach national popularity in 1955, known as the father of rock and roll, who broke into rock and roll by country and western music. The British Invasion. Characteristics. It became significant to the rising counterculture on both sides of the Atlantic. It was a rebellious tone and image of U.S. rock and roll and blues music. The most notable moment probably came when the CBS Evening News recording announced that the British Invasion this time goes by the code name Beatlemania, where it was developed. It occurred in the mid-1960s when rock and roll pop music acts from the United Kingdom, as well as other aspects of British culture, became popular in the U.S. London was a center for groups whose music and image were identified with young subcultures. 1962. Young British groups started to combine various British and American styles in different parts of the UK. Beat boom. 1964. The Beatles' song I Want to Hold Your Hand made it to Billboard Top 40 chart. 1967. The Rolling Stones, the Dave Clark 5, Lulu, and many more would have one or more number one singles in the U.S. 1971, the Third Wave began, which signified the ending of the British invasion. The British invasion artists, the Rolling Stones. Their rebellious image appealed especially to young audiences. They played an expressive band of rhythm and blues. They attracted untold numbers of blue fans. The Rolling Stones were in the vanguard of the British invasion of bands that became popular in the U.S. in 1964 to 1965. The Beatles. They often incorporated classical elements in innovative ways. They experimented with several genres such as psychedelic, hard rock, and pop. In the 1960s, their first wave was known as Beatlemania. The Animals. They were an English band of the 1960s. They were known for the gritty, bluesy sound and deep voice frontman Eric Burden. When they began to play, the local teenagers loved its wild stage show, and that's why they were called The Animals. Hard rock. Characteristics. It is a loosely defined subgenre of rock music that began in the mid-1960s with the garage, psychedelic, and blues rock movements. It is typified by a heavy use of aggressive vocals, distorted electric guitars, bass guitar, drums, and often accompanied by pianos and keyboards, maintaining closer connections with its blues and folk roots. Where it was developed. It was developed in the 1960s and the 1970s. The hard rock sound was originated in the pubs of London and Britain. Many famous hard rock bands were first created in London, which influenced bands all over the nation. 1966, Cream's song I Feel Fire, blues rock with pop and psychedelic, and the riffle and guitar solos of Eric Clapton. 1968, first rock band to emerge is known as Free. 1976, Irish hard rock band Thin Lizzy's sixth album, Jailbreak, bringing a U.S. hit with single The Boys Are Back in Town. 1982, Bad Company takes a 4-year break. 1990s, hard rock and heavy metal were being used and vice versa. 2000s, hard rock started to come to its popular end. Hard rock artists. Cream. Their guitar playing, versatile vocals, and prominent bass playing, poetry-inspired lyrics influenced hard rock. Cream became highly popular during 1960s in London. Their unique sound was characterized by a hybrid of blues rock, hard rock, and psychedelic rock. Led Zeppelin. They were an English rock band formed in London in 1968. This band, heavy guitar-driven sound, rooted in blues and psychedelic on their early albums, has earned them recognition as one of the progenitors of hard rock and heavy metal, through their unique style drew from a wide variety of influences, including folk music. Aerosmith, referred as the Bad Boys from Boston and America's greatest rock and roll band. Their style, which is rooted in blues-based hard rock, has come to also incorporate elements of pop, heavy metal, and rhythm and blues, and has inspired many subsequent rock artists.